Winter in Canada's far north is the most important travel season for the people who live there. Ice roads are built across hundreds of miles, connecting frozen rivers and lakes, reaching remote villages and stretching up to the very northern tip of the country by the Arctic Ocean. They are highways across the icy tundra, all the way out to the Mackenzie River Delta. These are roads to solitude, roads that disappear from the map completely as soon as the ice melts in spring. Early morning in Inuvik, a small town in the Arctic Northwest Territories of Canada. Kurt Weinman and his crew are starting work for the day, making sure the ice roads are drivable.
The ice road's been it's been a lifelong thing for the company here since day one. It's a maintenance contract. It's money to us. It's a job. It's a lifestyle. It's different. Not everywhere in the world people build ice roads to get to community, right? Everything around here is winter-based work. To do any exploration, to do anything going forward. Access to the oil fields out in Ellis Island, out in the ocean area, right? It's been a meaningful. Me and the ice road have had meaningful relationship most of my life. We started off with one plow truck and one semi. Ended up to got about 350 pieces of equipment now. We started around December 1st, we start checking ice. By December 10th, we start plowing the roads.
Thanks to the continental climate, there isn't much snowfall in the westernmost part of Canada's Arctic province. And the little snow that does fall is powdery dry.
In the beginning, we just clean it off, and then the ice thickens, and then we go and we do grader work. We ice blade it so it gets smoother. Ice isn't totally smooth, like everyone thinks it is. It's actually rough. It's pretty hard on the vehicle. So when we grade it smooth, it flattens it down like an asphalt road, right? So.
To do that, they attach massive steel planers to the front and sides of the snowplows. Kurt and his crew often need to drive back and forth several times to make absolutely sure the roads are wide enough.
It's got to be 100 feet wide to accommodate the weight. You can go narrower, but it doesn't work. It's got to be at 100 feet wide to hold the flotation. If this was your ice road and this was your sides, it floats up, right? And the sides break off, eh? Because this is like a ship, it floats, right? And the sides break off and they fall down and they don't gain any insight. Or they lean like this and there's always water in the cracks, right? You want to haul heavy transport loads, it's most likely mid-February to the end of February till the ice builds naturally on its own thick enough, right? We do profiling with GPRs. We profile the ice to see the thicknesses.
For safety reasons, profiles are mapped along the entire length of the roads. The first step is to calibrate the GPR by drilling a hole in the ground. Then a dynamometer car drives along the road, measuring the thickness of the ice. The radar can show the top and bottom of the ice cap to within centimeters. Hundreds of miles of these ice highways are built every year. They're a modern substitute for the traditional dog sled trails.
We use it for everything. We play on the ice road, we sled on the ice road, we boat in the summer when there's no ice road.
Inuvik is located at the edge of the sprawling Mackenzie River Delta, the northernmost point of the regular road system in Canada. In the local language of the Inuit, Inuvik translates to the People's Square. About 3,500 Inuit, members of the Gwich'in First Nation, and Caucasian Canadians live in harmony up here. It's a true cultural melting pot. Everyone here has managed to adjust to life in these extreme winter conditions, and for Pastor John Hansen, the freezing cold even has some advantages.
The roads between our communities are very important to me as a priest, as a clergy person who has to travel between 4 different communities here in the north. I prefer it in the wintertime because it's less dusty and not so much mud to cover my truck. Once the ice road opens up, I see all kinds of people from up there coming down, and I'm able to get up there more frequently. It was Father Adam's idea to build a church that represented the culture of the local people here. And so he decided upon the igloo shape. All of the materials were shipped up or down the Mackenzie River to the site. All of the trusses which hold up the large dome that you see were built by hand out of sticks of lumber.
These days, it's no longer just Inuit who come to the church. A number of Filipino settlers also attend. Dan Helbrun is originally from Ontario. His spare time consists of just two things: huskies and dog sleds. The most important means of transportation before people began using the ice roads.
Wait a second. Oh, this is Cash. He's one of our best lead dogs. He's a really happy, fast, strong guy. Creaky, come. This is Creek. Creek's also a really nice leader, and she's a big girl. Come here. These are Alaskan Huskies too. It's just a mix of different type of husky. Spotty, jump up. Spotty has a lot more hound dog. We do sprint racing here, which is see how fast the dogs can go, as opposed to the long distance racing where they have to camp and they go much slower with the dogs. Before a short sprint race, which is about 16 kilometers, they will only drink plain beef soup for about 24 hours before the race. They don't eat anything solid because we want their stomachs and intestines to be free from all sorts of obstruction. In the last 10 years or so, there's been 4 or 5 different dog teams that have quit because it's very expensive and it takes everyday dedication to give the dogs breakfast and run them 3-4 times a week. It costs thousands of dollars a year just for a dozen dogs and thousands of dollars. But I love the dogs. They're always in a good mood and they're always lots of fun, and we go out there, we play with them every day, and it keeps me healthy all winter, and it keeps me sleeping really well in the dark winter. Yeah, it's a very healthy for the mind and body.
Living with dogs may be the healthier alternative, but the trend these days for transport and winter sports is snowmobiles. Young people like James and Sean love them, working tirelessly on their racing machines at night. In late winter, toward the end of March, they compete in snowmobile races between the villages of the Delta.
When it comes to this time of year, everyone think about competition.
Everybody is allowed to. You just pay your entry fee, and then you have a chance to quadruple it or whatever. It's a pretty good time of year. Yeah. Everybody looks forward to this time of year every year.
Yeah. You got to save lots of money for this time of year. It's hard on the pocket now, and you try to be a racer and all that. You gotta buy brake pads, belts, gas, oil, ski rods.
You can't be scared when you race. You'll be driving 10 kilometers an hour if you're scared.
When you come to a corner, the first corner is always gonna be nervous, but the second one, you can't give up. Cause then you have friends out there racing. You're friends before the race, then when it comes to racing, it's enemies.
People come to Inuvik from all across the province to participate in or watch the races that are part of the Jamboree festival at the end of March.
come down the stretch and shoot across over the ice road and onto the other side, and it gets windy a little bit. The first place is $4,000, I believe. Yeah.
Last minute preparations, and they're off. The course runs parallel to the ice road right outside of town. That way, there is enough space for the mechanics and their repair vehicles. The audience has a front row seat all along the course. Depending on the race, drivers have to race around the course 25 to 40 times. Tactics are key here, but physical strength helps on the jumps and bumps as well. James has to end the race early. He's dislocated his shoulder and needs to go to the hospital. Dropping out is part of the race, though, and the show must go on. After a long, dark winter, everyone in Inuvik is longing for a change. The Jamboree Festival, which takes place in March, is right on time. After all, it's only minus 15 Celsius now. Along the ice road, people are barbecuing burgers, meeting friends, and following the various competitions. Traditional dishes are also popular, including caribou soup or sweet pastries deep fried in hot oil. People here call them Eskimo donuts. Another important part of the Jamboree is, of course, dog sled racing. Dan and his girlfriend have brought one sled each. They were expecting 3 more teams from Alaska, but they got stuck in a blizzard. Not unusual up here. The race is taking place anyway, so Dan puts small leather shoes on his dog's feet to protect them from the sharp edges of the icy snow.
One minute to start. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute to start. That's the way they go, folks. You'll be back here in about 45 minutes.
The race course parallels the ice highway for 5 miles, turning the entire stretch into a mobile grandstand. Keeping sled dogs isn't all that common these days, but everybody loves watching the dogs race, even if it's just 2 teams this time. Dan's girlfriend is winning the race, which means the prize money of $1,000 will stay in the family. Canada's winter roads start down south, where a paved road leads from Whitehorse up to Dawson City. From there to Inuvik, the so-called Dempster Highway is just a gravel road covered by snow and ice through 450 miles of uninhabited wilderness. During winter, the road north turns into a magical journey through a wondrous world of ice. In the old days, people only traveled long distances using dog sleds in winter. In summer, the tundra was just a swampland without any roads. In the 1950s, people tried for the first time to bore their way into the wilderness using machines. So-called cat trains, a long line of bulldozers and sleds, made their way across frozen ground at a snail's pace. They brought supplies to remote locations and delivered heavy equipment used in the extraction of natural resources. In the mid-1950s, people then built the first road to Dawson City, a former gold mining town on the Klondike. The little town has kept much of its flair from the pioneer days, but there is still no bridge across the Yukon in summer, just a ferry boat going back and forth. In winter, there is an ice road for 5 months. North of Dawson City, the landscape gets even lonelier and less inhabited. This is where the huge caribou herds roam. The so-called porcupine herd alone consists of 120 to 170,000 animals. Every year, they migrate over 1,300 miles between Alaska and the Yukon province. It's an Arctic spectacle of nature that's been going on for thousands of years. Eagle Plains is the only service station on the Dempster Highway. It has a gas station, a container motel, and a road maintenance depot. This morning,
that if
Kathy, the
there is
supervisor, is
drifting,
assigning tasks during the daily briefing.
then he can clean it up before you guys get there. Traffic, narrow areas, wind, controls, radio communication. Do you still have your inReach from yesterday? Is it charged?
Kathy and her guys have to make sure the roads are passable all winter long, and they are responsible for 130 miles of highway up to the border of the Northwest Territories. They have to go out when it's dark, when it's minus 45 Celsius, when blizzards are sweeping across the mountains, and later on when the road is turned into a muddy track by spring temperatures. Eagle Plains is the only outpost of civilization in the area. The next town, Dawson City, is about 250 miles away, and the journey there is fraught with danger.
We are on a road check right now, and what I'm looking for normally is any broken down vehicles. There could be people that have been stranded overnight. Sometimes people aren't prepared for this road. They don't have the proper footwear. They don't carry a shovel with them. They don't have chains. The blowing snow can make a big difference in driving. We have snow poles that are 100 feet apart, and when we can't see more than 2 snow poles, we shut the road down. Can you make another pass towards the circle here, Dwayne?
It's not so much the amount of snow the plows have to deal with, but the drifts. Wind can compress the actually powdery snow so tightly that it's as hard as concrete. Yukon is the center of the cold pole in North America, where temperatures have gone as low as minus 63 Celsius and winds of 75 miles per hour are not unusual during storms near the Arctic Circle. Trees in the Richardson Mountains can't survive this kind of climate, and for truckers, this glistening emptiness makes it difficult to navigate. The mountains turn into Sahara-like dunes of snow, and the vast landscape is reduced to just a few lines. The Dempster Highway was built just 40 years ago. It was the first road in Canada to cross the Arctic Circle and is still the only one now. It covers the same distance as Paris to Marseille, but without any traffic lights, intersections, or people. On the northern flank of the mountains, the highway leads into the vast delta of the Mackenzie River. It's a maze of tributaries and lakes known to very few people before the highway was built. Bush pilot Fred Carmichael was one of them.
Flying was only really means of traveling between communities, other than if you went by a skidoo or dog team or something. Basically, I left the trap line where I was driving dog team as transportation, as a means of getting to the trap line and hunting and everything. From there, I went directly to an airplane.
Fred is 81 years old now, and one of the last people still able to master the dangerous art of flying with snowblades.
It's, I guess, 61 years now that I've been flying. It's totally different today than the way in the old days. I mean, all the lakes you saw out there would be, you'll see signs of people, tracks and trails all over them because they were trapping muskrats. It was nothing for a family to get anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 muskrat in a season.
But these days, muskrat fur is out of fashion, and bush pilots are fewer and far between. Small roads off the main ice highway take you deeper into the Mackenzie River Delta to the tribal area of the Gwich'in First Nation. Only during winter is the ice thick enough for trucks and emergency vehicles to reach these remote settlements. The ice road also helps hunters and trappers reach their hunting grounds more easily. And the delta is teeming with game including muskox, caribou, moose, fox, and beaver. The Gwich'in have been living in the heart of the delta for thousands of years, but elements of modern civilization have arrived even in small villages like Aklavik, where people ride snowmobiles and get electricity from generators. Nevertheless, some of the older inhabitants, like Billy Archie, try to maintain a traditional lifestyle as hunters and trappers. Not just because it's been part of their culture for centuries, but for financial reasons as well.
Muskox, you get about 150 pounds of meat for one. So you try and buy that from the stores, you got to be wealthy. They make good. They make good burgers. So at the end, I mean, that's the way it is. We got to keep our deep freezers full, and never know. There's times when the caribou or animals don't come near, and it has happened. My generation growing up back when the prices of foxes were like $300, now you'd be lucky to get $20. Our people were so independent at one time, living up of the land, and it is a challenge for communities adapting. Boom and bust with oil and gas. Our community back in the day was around 1,000 people. Now we're down to 600. So young folks getting their education, moving on, and getting a career in Inuvik or Yellowknife or Whitehorse.
Back to the ice road and the Jamboree, where people are waiting excitedly on this particular Sunday night. Many of them have come all the way from town to the Delta for the special event in which the reindeer are brought out to their summer pasture. To provide a reliable source of food for the people up north, the Canadian government imported a herd of reindeer from Sweden in the 1930s, including their shepherds from Lapland. Unlike wild caribou, which go on long migrations, reindeer usually stay in one place. This, of course, helped the Inuit and Gwich'in to find sustenance even in lean times. Today, Lloyd Binder takes care of the herd. He is a descendant of those Swedish shepherds.
They stay on this side of the river until just about today. And today is the 2nd, is it the 2nd? The 3rd of April. And we usually figure that the first fawns start to come about the 7th of April. So the thing is that we like to have the herd cross the ice road so that afterwards there's no stress. The animals don't have to go anywhere. They just naturally graze on this island. It's called Richard's Island. It usually isn't too much of a challenge, but sometimes, like they say, shit will happen. And we had this very bad circumstance one November. We came and there were no animals left on the island. So we had to go looking for them on the mainland side. And they had gone across the river and then further north. We spent, basically we spent 3 months collecting what we could, and we lost about 1,500 reindeer.
This year, everything goes well, and all of the reindeer are brought safely across the road. During summer, those 3,000 animals will fan out over the pasture lands. Over the next couple of weeks, Lloyd is expecting 1,500 fawns, just in time for the region to slowly leave winter behind. The next morning, we get an idea of just how hard the winter can be here, even in April. It's minus 25 degrees Celsius in Inuvik. It's windy, cloudy, and there are snow flurries. But during the long winter months, it's even darker, colder, and more depressing up here. Now spring is almost here, and the little bit of cold left in the air certainly isn't keeping anybody from the Jamboree. Traditional gloves of polar bear fur and boots out of seal skin or moose hide are good protection against the extreme temperatures. Let the games and the festivities begin. The most popular competitions focus on traditional skills like tea boiling, which is more exciting than it may sound. The men have to chop wood as fast as they can and light a fire to boil tea in a simple tin can without using any other tools.
Tea boiling. Spectators all around. Parents, please watch your kids.
It's a skill one had to master during trapper times. After falling into an icy river, for example, a fast cup of boiling tea could decide whether you survived or not. In the end, the oldest participant among the Gwich'ins gets his tea ready first and wins the competition.
Yeah.
Afterwards, everyone has a sip. The smoky taste of the fire brings back memories of the old days, when trappers were still common in the region, where the grandparents still cooked over an open fire. The audience is even more excited about the next competition: muskrat skinning. It was an everyday skill for the older people in the crowd, who still witnessed the heyday of trapping in the Delta. But for the younger folks, it still takes a bit of getting used to.
Get set. Go.
The fluffy pelts of the muskrat were once the most important article of commerce in this region. And once again, it is an older participant who wins the competition, taking only 30 seconds to skin the whole animal.
What you got there? Melba, you want to come and get your prize at the stage?
At the kindergarten in Inuvik, even the little ones help prepare food for the Jamboree. They chop vegetables and caribou meat using ulu knives, the traditional tool of the Inuit. Ulus are as sharp as razor blades, but the kids seem to know exactly what they're doing. In the evening, a huge buffet is prepared at the local gym. The kids have made a caribou soup, and almost everybody has brought homemade dishes for the event. There are also a few regional specialties from the Delta on display, including muskrat.
They trap the muskrats in the muskrat houses, and then they skin them, and then they cook them. Yeah, and they even have the tail there. We do have the tail, that's a delicacy.
According to tradition here in the north, all of the nearly 500 guests have to be served food before the evening program can begin. After the meal, people sing old songs and perform traditional dances for hours on end. The drums set the rhythm. It's hypnotic and archaic. It's a celebration for all generations, and even the youngest are joining in. This is how they welcome spring at the Jamboree, and its arrival at the beginning of April is heralded by wondrously long, bright evenings all across the watery maze of the Delta. It is almost the end of the season for the ice roads now, just a few more weeks before they melt away once again. Inuvik is the starting point for the northernmost and most spectacular section of Canada's winter roads. On the easternmost arm of the Mackenzie River, a road of pure ice leads across the delta up to the Arctic Ocean and further across the ice pack to the town of Tuktoyaktuk. The harbor of Inuvik seems frozen in time. Indeed, 6 months of the year, the Mackenzie River is completely covered in ice. From mid-December to the end of April, the ice is safe enough to transport heavy goods all the way out into the Arctic Ocean. The road seems glassy over vast distances here, and people rarely use spiked tires because the extreme temperatures keep the ice from getting slippery. We arrive at the tree line shortly before reaching the frozen Arctic Ocean. From there, an endless white expanse surrounds the road all the way to the horizon. After 115 miles on ice, Tuktoyaktuk finally appears in front of us. It's the northernmost town on the Canadian mainland, a centuries-old Inuit settlement. About 1,000 people live here at the edge of the world, but they do enjoy some modern comforts. The extreme location of the village just requires some extra effort. There are no basements, and houses are built on stilts so they don't sink into the marshy tundra in summer. While Inuvik has central water and gas, Tuk, as the locals call it, has to get fresh water delivered daily by truck. This is the only way to guarantee a living standard that includes a shower or a dishwasher. And the delivery has to be made quickly, otherwise the water will freeze immediately. Thanks to the ice road, supplies for the town are more or less guaranteed in winter. Trucks from the south roll in several times a week to fill the local supermarket's shelves. From boat paddles to yogurt, the residents of Tuk have a wide range of products to choose from, just like anywhere else. But living on the edge of the world is not easy, especially for children, as social worker Faye Trombley says.
How long am I going to be here? That was about the first question kids ever asked me when I came here 10 or 11 years ago. And they said, how long are you going to stay? And that's because usually teachers or nurses or RCMP or people from the south, they're in and they're out, like maybe 6 months, maybe 2 years, but they don't seem to stay very long. So I said, I'm here till my teeth fall out. And I happened to tell that to the bishop, and he said, keep brushing. Kids like to drop in. I have centers of interest that they can enjoy. I've got Wi-Fi. The family might not be able to afford internet connection. Like there are many families in town don't even have a telephone. They might not even have a television, some families. So I try to say, what can I have available in my house that might help them not only to pass the time, but enjoy themselves and be a little bit helpful for them. There's no Catholic priest here, but we have church services on Sundays. The church is at the very far northern tip of Tuk, and in the winter, if it's 30 or 40 below, and you've got 2 or 3 kids to pack up and walk here, it's a big challenge. After all our Sunday services, we have brunch over here and sit around and talk. Like we might talk for 2 or 3 hours. It's lovely.
Tuktoyaktuk is a place of extremes. Human warmth and proximity sharply contrast with the fact that this is one of the coldest places on Earth where people can still survive. While Inuvik is located south of the tree line, the population of Tuk is very exposed to the strong winds and snowstorms of the Arctic Ocean. In winter, the sun doesn't even make it beyond the horizon for 46 days. A minor mishap out here can quickly turn into a major problem. But as brutal as nature may be, it is just as beautiful and bizarre to behold. The icy landscape and the frozen ocean are mesmerizing in their melancholic solitude. It's a strange foreign world where nothing is as it appears. The 300-foot hills at the shoreline of Tuktoyaktuk are not actually mountains, but upwelling in the permafrost. They are called pingos, a sort of natural frost boil. To build a drivable road on the ice of the Arctic Ocean, you need to be a specialist like Mervyn Gruben.
I'm 53 now. I used to come out with my dad and some of our guys with a Bombardier track machine, and just by traditional knowledge of where the ice is thin, we'd come out and chisel some holes with the chisel and scoop, and just like I say, pick out where we know the ice is thin or traditionally bad, and then come out and then plow it. Now you notice out here you see a lot of the cracks and stuff. It's a lot of the tidal ice that's going up and down, but you notice a lot of places too where there's big dips on the ice.
The ice here is about 7 feet thick and crystal clear in some sections. Sometimes you can even see the sandy ground below it.
We're totally exposed up here with no windbreak. You look at, you go up further up the river, you're in a river and you have trees and you have some, a lot more protection. You get out here, you see forever, you can keep on driving that way, you'll end up in Russia.
Mervyn has worked on the ice highway for 3 decades, but now he is helping to build a new gravel road.
This is the start of the Inuvik Highway. This is the first all-weather highway road that reached the Arctic Ocean in public highway in continent of North America. And this is a significant road as it connects Canada. Canada is surrounded by 3 oceans, the Arctic Ocean up here, the Pacific Ocean to the west, and the Atlantic Ocean to the east. So Canada is now connected by a road to the 3 oceans.
The new road across land will change people's lives in Tuktoyaktuk forever, connecting them to the outside world all year long. Perhaps they'll miss the ice road and some of the traditions that have come with it. Either way, it is the end of an era.